Hello, bonjour, Janzi. To all of the wonderful Manitobans for human rights and for this virtual relay that is happening, I remember being in rain, I remember being in sun and carrying the torch along with so many of you. And I know we can't do it that way again this year, but maybe next year. And to be able to talk about the spark for change at a time when I, among many other people, are spending a lot of time trying to extract women human rights defenders and their families out of Afghanistan. I gotta say it's a little difficult to be overly enthusiastic, but that's what the relay is about. That's what our working together is about. So there's no such thing as quitting. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Kwe Tansi, bonjour, hello. Every year, the Manitobans for Human Rights encourages us to light a flame within our communities for their Torch for Dignity relay. This year, we're invited to carry that flame to spark the change we want to see in our community, in our province, our country, and beyond. As a government, we recognize the importance of creating programs to directly support Black, Indigenous, racialized, and LGBTQ2S communities, organizations, and businesses who were disproportionately impacted by the pandemic and who were facing and are facing greater challenges. We've also made it a whole of government priority to improve accessibility in our country. Au cours de la dernière année et demie, il pourrait sembler encore plus difficile de provoquer le changement et d'être cette étincelle dans sa communauté. From those challenges, many found inspiration. We saw people standing up for each other, rallying around each other, in solidarity with those who suffer from racism and those who suffer from injustices. We saw a determination to address and change systemic inequalities that have existed for generations. And as I said last year, Canada is not immune to the realities of systemic racism, to inequality, and to racial injustice. That's why I echo the call from Manitoba for Human Rights today and encourage all of us to not only spark the change, but lead the way. Ce sont les étincelles qui allument le feu que ce flambeau que nous partageons aujourd'hui et toujours. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the Manitoba government, I am pleased to support Manitobans for Human Rights and your launch of this year's Torch of Dignity relay. The Torch of Dignity is an important event in our community as it helps spread knowledge and awareness of our fundamental human rights across Manitoba. This year's theme, Spark the Change, highlights the important role we all must play in advancing human rights in Manitoba. Human rights will only be realized if each one of us takes an active role in promoting equality in our communities and standing up against discrimination when we see it. I want to thank this year's organizers, volunteers, and participants who, through this event, are doing so much to spread awareness of human rights across Manitoba. Today and every day, let us all carry the torch of dignity within our communities and support diversity, inclusion, and human rights across Manitoba.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for the invitation to participate in today's video for the virtual Torch of Dignity relay. I love this year's theme of Spark the Change because it's a great call to action that communicates that we all have the power to make a difference. The topic of human rights, it's an important one for me, and I know it is for Winnipeggers. And that's why the City of Winnipeg is working really hard to promote, build, and align Winnipeg as an international leader for human rights. This work builds on some incredible human rights assets that we already have in our city, including the Arthur Morrow Centre of Peace and Justice at the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation, the Manitoba Human Rights Commission, and of course, the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. There is so much work currently underway at the City of Winnipeg, and I'll highlight just a few of those for you. Well, firstly, we created the Human Rights Committee of Council, the first of its kind in the entire country. One of the first agenda items for the Human Rights Committee was looking at how Winnipeg can be more welcoming and more inclusive place to call home. The city's newcomer welcome and inclusion policy was adopted by council last year and will provide a framework for enhancing the lives of immigrants in Winnipeg by identifying ways in which the city could better serve their distinct needs. One of the main priorities of this new policy is ensuring a city without racism. This led to the city hosting its first ever Anti-Racism Week in March with numerous community partners who were grateful for their participation. The partnerships strengthened during Anti-Racism Week led me to call for the development of the city's first ever equity and diversity and inclusion policy. Passed in September, this will see the creation of an equity office and will ultimately lead to more equity-based City of Winnipeg hiring practices. City Council was a proud partner in supporting the creation of the Leaf at the Diversity Gardens at the Assiniboine Park. From their website, Canada is a garden of cultures living in harmony and thriving together. The Leaf is a stunning showcase of our diversity expressed through plants that shape our lives here and across the globe. This is a beautiful expression of our city's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And these are just a few of the exciting ways the City of Winnipeg is trying to create positive momentum to spark the change in the broader community. I hope everyone who sees this will challenge themselves to be part of that positive momentum and help spark the change of transformation that's occurring in our city. Thank you so much to everybody. Merci and miigwech.
Bonjour, Denoi Magiduk. Hello, my relatives. My name is Jerry Daniels. I'm the Grand Chief for the Southern Chiefs Organization, representing 34 First Nations from Anishinaabe and Dakota Nations, and we welcome you to the Treaty 1 territory.
Hello, everyone. I am Louise Campbell is my name, and I'm very excited to have been invited to be a part of this event, which is Torch of Dignity. I love that title. My spirit name in the language of my people is Ishkite. It translates into Fireheart Woman, and I am from the Turtle Clan. I'm also the one of the people who have created a project which is called the Clan Mothers Healing and Educational Village. So my speech today would be to say that it's from all the clan mothers that belong to our project. I always believe that women have the power, and we have to bring our power back to all Indigenous women to create a balance and harmony back to our communities. This event is a very important one because there's much, how should I say, there's much upheaval in all over the world right now. And I always believe that everything happens for a reason. And the reason this is happening is to bring people together. Too long we have been separated one from another. And that's what this is all about, to bring people together, because nothing can happen unless we begin to respect and honor one another, and to respect and honor our ways of believing and doing and seeing things. It's all about respect. And this is our time now to come together as a human race all over the world and to begin to respect one another, to find balance so that everybody is equal. One of the creeds of the Clan Mothers is love, unity, equality for eternity. There's not much unity or equality right now. So this is the time when the politicians have to look and see and begin to realize and understand the truth of what is happening, because they play a big part in all of this disruption and the inequality that is happening now. We as humans must realize and know that we are all children of the earth. We all belong to the same family, but it's not working that way now. So my prayer and my offerings would be, please, every human being in this world, understand and know that we are all equal. We must work together. And that is what I wish and pray for all people. Big witch.
Human rights saved me, and I hope save others.
My name is Kylie Nace. I'm 9 years old, and I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. As one of the kids in Manitoba, we deserve to be treated equally, regardless of our color, gender, and race. We deserve to be given an equal education, love, care, respect, and acceptance. We are the next generation in the future, so we deserve to be treated properly. Thank you.
My name is Dad Gonsalves, and every child matters. If I see anyone getting bullied, then I'll just help them.
So for me, human rights should be important to all human beings because it's those rights that protect us as Canadians that should cause us to respect each other, to treat each other with dignity, and to always try to act in a way that is respectful of others.
Hello, my name is Raymond Curry. I'm the project coordinator for Circles for Reconciliation. We're a full and equal partnership between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people.
Danse, Grace Nina, ego Indigenous Ambassador for Circles for Reconciliation. Liminentin Gabe Dumtanachnistanan Oma Torch of Dignity Relay.
When we think about human rights, we may think about laws or obligations. And the reason we have these laws or obligations is because over history we found that too many people don't voluntarily agree to uphold the rights of other people. Also, the laws help us to reflect on dimensions of human rights we might not have thought about. But human rights legislation is quite recent in human history.
The United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous Peoples was only adopted in 2007. And only this year, on August 13th of 2021, did this declaration receive royal assent in Canada. Many of its provisions have yet to be acted upon.
The final report of the Truth and Reconciliation Report in Canada states that the United Nations Human Rights Declaration is really the foundation of reconciliation in Canada, and it should touch every dimension of human life. And within that context, the commissioners of the TRC tell us over and over again that reconciliation is all about creating and maintaining mutually respectful relationships. And that's what we at Circles for Reconciliation try to do. We want to live in the spirit of the human rights legislation and recognize through our work that human rights legislation is a beacon, a light for us as we try to bring about harmony among all people.
On behalf of Bear Clan Inc., we stand for human rights. We stand for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, LGBTQ and two-spirited, and all vulnerable people.
My name is Darlene Jackson, and I'm the president of the Manitoba Nurses Union. We know that rest is an important building block of good health. Without rest, humans cannot grow, cannot thrive, and cannot heal. Rest is one of the most important parts of our lives.
Hi, I'm Uzoma Asaguera, NDP MLA for Union Station. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the 2021 theme for this year's Torch of Dignity, Spark the Change. Now, I'm someone who uses gender-neutral pronouns, they, them pronouns. One way that you can spark the change is making sure that every person you interact with has their pronouns respected too. So share with people what your pronouns are. create a safer space for them to share theirs with yours and respect whatever pronouns people ask you to and identify as. That's one way that you can spark the change in your own communities.
Hello and welcome, or as we say in Albanian, Përshëndetje e mirë se vini. My name is Andrea Limehaj. I'm representing our local Albanian community here in Manitoba. So before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Ojibwe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dene, and Dakota peoples, and this is the birthplace of the Métis Nation. We also acknowledge that our water is sourced from Shoal Lake, number 40, First Nation. We're thankful for the opportunity to participate in this year's Torch of Dignity Relay, and we love this year's theme, this year's topic, Spark the Change. Thank you to Manitobans for Human Rights for organizing this event and for gathering our communities to have important conversations and discussions about human rights. Now, for our Albanian community, human rights has been at the center of conversation for generations. But today, we would like to shed light to the late 1990s, where we experienced some of the most atrocious crimes against humanity the world has ever seen since World War II. These crimes were perpetrated by the former Yugoslav regime in an attempt to ethnically cleanse the Albanian people of Kosovo. This ideology has made its way back to today's Serbian parliament and yet again threatens to not only destabilize the situation with Kosovo, but destabilize the Balkan region in general. Unfortunately, this era of impunity does continue in modern-day Serbia, where the perpetrators are living free and unpunished for the crimes committed in the Balkans. And in fact, war criminals are being glorified, which is not only terrifying, but such a huge step back for human rights. So as a result of the unrest and the war in 1999, the international community was yet again faced with another refugee crisis. And our people found themselves not only displaced, but refugees all over the world. As a result, Kosovo still bears the scars of war, including an exile that exists for many, even 21 years later. The freedom of movement is virtually non-existent, which is what brings me here today. So we wanted to share with Canadians that Article 13 of the Declaration of Human Rights resonates with our community, the right to freedom of movement. The right to freedom of movement states, and I quote, "Everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and return to his country." End quote. We would love for our people of Kosovo to be able to enjoy these human rights and be granted visa liberalization. We have been advocating for this since Independence Day and have fulfilled the necessary criteria set forth by the European Union over 3 years ago. Dear friends, that's really about it for me. Thank you for allowing us to share this space with you in today's Spark the Change event. We hope that one day the story of our people will be represented at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. It would mean so much to our community to be able to share Kosovo's story with our fellow Canadians.
Hello, my name is Orissa Patrician, teacher at the Paul Sisler High School, and I would like to send this message to all students in the world that we are supporting the freedom of education.
Spark the change. I am inspired to spark the change every day.
Hello. On behalf of the Canadian Federation of Students in Manitoba, I'm proud to support this Manitoba Human Rights annual campaign, Spark the Change. We are the Canadian Federation of Students in Manitoba. We uphold and honor the human rights of everyone in this land. We support and hope to spark a change in access of affordable and accessible high quality education in Manitoba. We work with various other organizations, grassroots movements, and folks all around Manitoba to champion for the access of equitable housing without discrimination. We believe that healthcare is a basic human right and as such, therefore, should be free from barrier and also be publicly funded for all. We believe that human rights is and should be benefit for all, and therefore, for us to achieve this access to equitable education, we hope that everyone in the universe holds onto and respects others, while we also try to spark change in all of our communities. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tyrell. This is Margaret House. We support human dignity and human rights.
Bonjour, Annie. My name is Rath Pronto from Treaty 2 Territory, and I am a volunteer with Clan Mothers Village. And Clan Mothers Village is a stepping stone for our community to access needed healing and ongoing healing. And Clan Mothers Village will provide healing on a long-term basis, and it just shows that our healing journeys are continuous, ongoing, and forever evolving.
My name is Titi Tijani, President of African Communities of Manitoba, Incorporated. In a difficult and challenging time, sometimes all that is needed for individuals, families, and communities to unite, take positive action, and be a catalyst for positive change. We all can make a difference in our own little corners and field of influence to be a spark to unite the fire of healing that is needed at this time. At ACOMI, we remain committed in our efforts to mobilize, inspire, and collective action to promote human dignity, equality, and human rights for everyone. That is why we will continue to lend our voice and support this initiative in order to contribute to creating a society where every person has the same rights and freedom to fulfill their human potentials without any form of discrimination. At ACOMI, we all can help and be a spark for positive change by simply being the change we want to see and speaking out against the inequalities that still exist in our society. ACOMI is happy and honored to once again be part of this year's Torch of Dignity Relay.
I'm participating in this Torch of Dignity relay because I believe passionately that we need a world which globally respects much more in terms of human rights. I'm dealing every day with people in the Afghan community here in Winnipeg who have relatives who are in Afghanistan. And we're doing our best to help them in the struggle to get their relatives out of Afghanistan and to Canada where they can be safe. But each day I hear from relatives of the human rights abuses that are happening in Afghanistan. The people are afraid of their lives because people there are not adequately respecting differences in religion, differences in ethnicity, differences in gender. Women are being persecuted for no other reason that they are standing up for women. And we have people in the LGBT community who are also there and desperate to get out because they are being targeted. It is a terrible situation. And the only way that we can solve these sorts of problems in the long run is to be focusing on making sure that people have human rights and that they understand how important it is to have empathy and understanding of others and to be able to respect others no matter what their religion.
United Community Health provides primary health care, mental health care, and community health services to enhance individual and community capacity. Our mission is engaged and healthy communities. We believe in just care for everyone.
So what human rights means for me is no barriers for all humans to be able to live a happy, healthy life. It's more than just equality, it's about equity.
We're here at West End Commons, and West End Commons is a very special family that consists of all kinds of folks from all kinds of countries. And the important thing is that we are one family. Human rights, everyone has the right to food, clothing, dignity, companionship, all the things that help to make us thrive. And so we're just really happy to be part of this. And we hope that Many people will spark the torch, hold high the torch, and pass it on to someone else.
There was a time when the women wanted to have their voices be heard. And what we did a craft program here, and we call them talkers. But like for the women, they were showing what they are undergoing every day in their life. For example, they said women were paid on their gender, not their abilities.
Hi, bonjour. My name is Geraldine Shingoose. I'm a 9-year residential school survivor. I attended Muskogee Residential School from 1962 to 1971. And I'm very honored to be carrying this torch today because it represents the inequalities and experiences that we experience as residential school survivors in residential schools across Canada. I carry this torch for the 215 plus children, and I'm seeking justice for them, and my heart goes out to the families and the communities and to the residential school survivors. I want to let them know that my message to the survivors and to the 215 plus children is, I see you, I hear you, I believe you, and I love you. And we need to honor those little children, those little ancestors, and everybody should be making them a priority because their lost lives are very important to us survivors, and we need that justice, we need that accountability for the individuals that brought harm to them. So my love goes to all the residential school survivors and to the 215 plus children. Egose Chimigwich.
Society of Manitoba is honored to participate in the Manitobans for Human Rights Torch of Dignity Relay, as we recognize our duty to other people and to protect their rights and freedoms. The Law Society's role is to regulate the legal profession in the public interest. Lawyers have a position of privilege. We have a voice and a platform to advance and protect the rights and freedoms of all persons in Manitoba. With that privilege comes an obligation to celebrate diversity and to increase awareness and support for diversity, inclusion, and human rights, not only in the legal profession, but for all Manitobans.
Hi, I'm Jeff Traeger, president of UOCW Local 832, Manitoba's largest private sector union. We represent over 19,000 workers in a variety of different industries, including retail grocery, food production, warehousing, security, and assisted living. Human rights and workers' rights are at the very core of what our organization believes in. We believe that every single person has the right to work with dignity and respect and the right to choose the kind of work that they do. We encourage all of you to choose to be kind when you're at work or when you're at the work of another, and together we can promote a more fair and favorable work environment for everyone.
Thank you so much to Manitobans for Human Rights for inviting me to be part of your virtual torch run. You know, when it comes to human rights and the importance of recognizing people's dignity, one of the most important quotes I've ever heard is the idea that poverty is the greatest censor. There are a lot of people who are experiencing poverty, experiencing homelessness, and they're overlooked. We don't want to look them in the eye. But it's so important to remember that every single one of these people is a human being. They were once a baby held in their mother's arms, and they have a name. And so when you have the opportunity to interact with any of them, always, I always ask people's names, say their name to them, ask them where they're from, show interest in who they are, and treat them as you would want to be treated. Some of this is just the simple golden rule that we would all like to be treated with dignity. And the other is that even though those of us who are lucky may not have experienced that life, there are fundamental things that all human beings share. And that is what we also have to remember. Because so long as we recognize people's individual humanity, it automatically means that we treat them better. And that if we just treat them as a member of another group, that is part of what runs against human rights, because it's about human rights. It's about human rights as the individual, not because we exalt the individual, but because we need to recognize every single person's individual humanity. Everyone can feel pain and love and companionship, and we can be much kinder to each other than we sometimes are. So thank you for your leadership, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. Merci, miigwech.
Hi, I'm Raina.
I'm Reva. We work at Manitoba Theatre for Young People.
And we believe that every child matters.
And that every child should have equal opportunity to the magic of theatre.
Ani, Jason Whitford, Vizhnika, Akwadudam. Everyone has a right to housing, whether you're living in a First Nation community, whether you're living in an urban center, whether you're living in rural Manitoba. Everyone has a right to housing, regardless of age, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. We all deserve a roof over our head and opportunity to live a good life. Which
Bonjour, bonjour, and hello to everybody participating in this year's Torch of Dignity Relay. Now, there are still so many human rights challenges around the world and even right in our backyards. But I'm a firm believer that a committed individual, a compassionate person can make a difference. And so I hope that each and every one of you takes the opportunity to spark the change that you want to see in the world. And of course, along the way, please hold our leaders accountable for acting at the governmental and the international level so we can build a better world for all of us.
Hello, bonjour. I mean, shalom. It is an honor and a privilege to be holding this torch today. My name is Ruth Ashrafi, and I am the Regional Director of B'nai B'rith here in Manitoba. B'nai B'rith is Hebrew for Children of the Covenant, and this term is coming from the Jewish sacred scriptures, the Hebrew Bible. We, as this organization, have been established in 1875, and we are the oldest independent Jewish rights organization here in Canada. We want to build a covenantal society, and that society has three values: justice, social justice, and deeds of kindness. These are three of the values of a covenantal society. Justice. We fight against injustice, we fight against discrimination and racism, because we believe that everybody has a right to be a full participant in society. Social justice. Life is sometimes really tough, and sometimes you fall through the cracks, and then other people should have your back. So as B'nai B'rith, we also run community engagement programs. And deeds of kindness. We could not run these programs without the help of our volunteers who give their time and their energy and their attention to help us accomplish what we want to do. We are so proud today to be part of this relay, and we are so proud to be one of the many organizations in Manitoba who fight for human rights and who are doing their very best to make our beautiful province a better part of this world. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Johan Gennaro, co-founder of Winnipeg's Got Soul. We're an organization that holds events as well as collect gently used shoes and give them out to those in need. We like to spark the change by setting a good example to our youth and paying it forward.
Hi, my name is Phoenix Huri. I am a Two-Spirit Red River Michif, and I work for Two Spirits Manitoba, an organization that seeks to improve the lives of Two-Spirit people throughout our province. Historically, Two-Spirit people have been erased from our cultures and communities. This has been a result of the residential school system, the violent enforcement of colonial gender binaries, and its transphobic and homophobic belief systems, as well as the ongoing genocide against Indigenous peoples at the hands of the Government of Canada. Two-Spirit people have survived over 500 years of colonization, We have the right to exist, thrive, and feel safe on our own lands. Two-Spirit people deserve to be honored and have access to our traditional roles, cultures, and languages. Gender diverse folks have been at the center of Indigenous communities for hundreds and hundreds of years. And upon reviewing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we found it to be binary and colonial, and therefore not reflective of the needs and experiences of Two-Spirit people.
Hi, I'm Vince Barletta, President and CEO of Harvest Manitoba. Harvest Manitoba has been supporting our community for more than 35 years, providing food aid all across our province. 1 out of 8 Manitobans faces some level of food insecurity. And in this province today, that means that tens of thousands of people rely on the support from Harvest Manitoba to meet their daily food needs. Half of those people that we serve at Harvest are children, and we're continuing to see that need only increase in these past number of months and heading into this holiday season. Harvest and its supporters have always believed that food is a basic human right, and that's why we do the work that we do here at Harvest, to support Manitobans, to support children and families, to empower people to get back on their feet, and to not have to make the difficult choices that poverty often imposes between food and the other necessities of day-to-day life. We believe that basic dignity should be a part of every human being's existence, and that's why we support human rights here at Harvest Manitoba.
My name is Megan Turco. I am the Clinical Case Manager at Turning Leaf Services, and our mission here is to empower change, and we have unconditional acceptance for those we support. We are really lucky to be able to provide person-centered supports and be able to shift the narrative from equality to equity.
Bonjour, I'm Constable Rachel Vertone. In the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 27.1, everyone has the right freely to participate in the cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts, and to share in scientific advancements and its benefits. Miigwech.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Harper. I'm from Wasagamik, Manitoba. Was born and raised in Wasagamik, and this song I wrote because I lost my son in a vehicle accident, and also this song is dedicated to the families that lost their loved ones.
Hi, my name is Shandy Strong, and aside from being a longtime trans rights and community activist, I'm also a longtime board member from Manitobans for Human Rights. Every day, especially in my work and my community, I imagine a world in which human rights and human dignity are respected and valued. Because all too often I see or meet people who face far too many barriers to dignity and humanity. Often they are people who are 2S LGBTQ, immigrants, or Indigenous, or those who have mental health struggles, disabilities, addictions, or are homeless. This is especially true when those characteristics intersect. Compassion and understanding are so easy to give if only one takes the time to listen and not judge someone who's different than you. Because the simple fact is that every person in the world is different from every other person in our world. Diversity is not homogeneous. It overflows with variations and intersections. We need to inspire each other to be those who listen with compassion and to educate others about human rights and human dignity. Join me. Join us in doing that by making a change. It took me personally facing discrimination many years ago to learn that I needed to make a change. I hope it does not take the same for you. Thank you.
We all need to be part of the solution.
So, our first question that we have today is for Alastair Clarke. What things can an everyday person do to challenge inequalities and injustices in our local community?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much. This has been such a good conference, and it's been a pleasure to be a part of it. So I did receive these questions beforehand, and hopefully the talk that you heard earlier today had some useful information for you. In terms of my own practice and in terms of what I see, when I'm dealing with people from various backgrounds on a daily basis, one of the things that I focus on is on education. Previously, before going to law school, I was a junior high school teacher in Japan for 3 years, and I really put education at really the heart of my practice. I mean, as an immigration lawyer, as an advocate, I don't like to tell my clients what to do. I like to explain the options, guide them through the system, explain the system, and then hopefully they can make the decisions themselves. And so, in my view, be educating, researching, understanding the system. That is something everyone can do, and that will. If people know what's going on, if they understand the system and they know the consequences of their decisions, that in my mind, it would be a huge step forward.
Great, that's wonderful. We can truly learn from that response and how to make this world a better place. So thank you for that answer. Okay, so our next question is, for Jennifer. So it's interesting to hear of different heroes that have made a difference in our province. So can you share a personal story of an individual making a difference in our society?
Thank you so much. That is a great question, a big responsibility. I also want to congratulate all of you for all of your hard work organizing this event. So thank you so much for that and for the kind invitation. I think there are so many incredible people in our city of Winnipeg, in our province, in this territory, making really doing the hard work on the ground day in and day out. So I know a few of them that I had pointed out in my recorded version would be our Grand Chief, Jerry Daniels, as an example. He is a leader who's really amplifies and works really hard to amplify the voices of our 34 Anishinaabe and Dakota nations. And I think why that's so important is that it's that constant conversation and that constant relationship with governments, with the broader Canadian society that are really going to enable us to make the change that we want to see in the world. So as Indigenous peoples, we make up about 5% of the population in Canada. So we really can't do it without allies and without friends. And we really need all of your support and the support of other folks who are really committed to human rights to really see the changes that we want to see in our communities and in our country. And I'm talking about recognizing treaty rights. I'm talking about recognizing Indigenous rights. And I'm talking about really ending the economic apartheid in our First Nation communities. And that means appropriate funding for infrastructure, as an example. That means the right to housing. So the conversation about human rights is just so important when we see what isn't happening and what needs to happen through or within our First Nation communities, whether we're on or off reserve. So certainly Grand Chief Jerry Daniels. A few of the other people I mentioned are the incredible Dr. Marsha Anderson, the incredible Melanie McKinnon and Cindy Garson, who are 3 First Nation leaders who've done such an amazing job through the pandemic to advocate and challenge and really make sure that governments listen and are following the evidence and really prioritizing those who are most in need of the vaccine, which they were successful in doing. So definitely want to shine a light and hold them up. There are people like, as some of you may know, Betty Adele and Jamie Dumont, who are working so hard at the Winnipeg School Division to make the change in our education system that we really need to see, to make sure that our schools are welcoming to all students, not just students from European heritage, as an example, but to make sure that they're open and really reflective of all students. And I mean the curriculum and that it's relevant and respectful, etc. So really want to hold them up. there are incredible people like Dr. Phil Fontaine, who was one of the first to speak out about the abuses at the residential schools. He was unbelievably courageous and brave to speak out as he did. And really, because of his dedication over many years, we ended up with the settlement agreement and also the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, which led to the national inquiry. So it's amazing. And I love the theme of Spark, but you know what one person does when they stand up and speak out, and then how that can spark so many changes along the way to really bring us to a better place of understanding in Canada. And I really think the tragic discovery of the children this summer at Kamloops, and then in Saskatchewan, and then of course across the country is all again part of that greater awakening. So those are some of the incredible people I would hold up. I could honestly go on for an hour, but I won't, about how many amazing people are working. Some are very well known. Others are absolutely just grinding away at the grassroots level, but each and every one is really using their creator-given gifts to try and make the world a better place. And of course, the basis of all of that, the foundation of all of that, is respect for our human rights and our human dignity. So I'll leave it there, but thank you so much. That was a great question.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing. That's so wonderful, all of the different people in our community that are trying to spark a change, and just really shows us the different role models that we have in Manitoba. Okay, so our next question is for Alastair Clarke. When did you realize that human rights were important and made you want to spark a change in people and in your society? And what contribution are you most proud of?
Thanks. Yeah, that's a really hard question to answer. I mean, when I was thinking about this question, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind was my mom. And if you Google me on YouTube, you can watch my TEDx talk about my own views on envisioning a world without borders. But in that TEDx talk, I did talk about my mom. She was an activist in the United States. My father sponsored my mother. She was heavily involved in what's called the Second Underground Railroad, where American men who were drafted for the Vietnam War and did not agree with the draft, they came to Canada. They evaded the draft, and she helped those young men come to Canada because they didn't want to fight in a war that they didn't believe in. And so when I was raised in a home where I was always taught to think critically about laws and regulations. And I would note that human rights are not the same as legal rights. So, that is kind of one example of how historically, I believe that, that those men, those American men, for example, they had the legal duty to do something. Their government ordered them to do something, but I don't think that it was complying with human rights. And so I was raised in that type of environment. I finished my high school in a small town in Ecuador. I lived in Esmeraldas for a year, and I got to see some of the some very serious atrocities. It had a strong influence on my own kind of fighting the good fight. And then from there, as I said, I taught in Japan for a few years, and then I was in DC, and I had a chance to work with some amazing lawyers at the Department of Foreign Affairs in terms of landmines in Southeast Asia. There are still landmines in places like Myanmar after years and years that haven't been cleared. And so those all kind of pushed me in the direction of trying to kind of make the world a better place, and to fight for people who don't necessarily have a voice. In terms of contributions, it's so hard to pick one. We, on a daily basis, I mean, myself and my team like I say to everyone in my office, we're in the business of saving lives, and everyone who comes through our door, we work extremely hard to do our best to fight for them. One case that received, I suppose, quite a lot of notoriety was with the Workington family in Manitoba. Their daughter was deemed to be medically inadmissible, and the entire family was going to be deported from Canada. It would have had a significant negative impact on Western Manitoba, around the Dauphin area. This was in my view, their rights were not being properly considered, and Section 38, which was the section at issue for medical inadmissibility, in my view, was not justly considered by the government, and we got it changed. So talking about sparking change and how one person can have an influence, the Workington family, they put their trust and their faith in me and my team, and we fought for them, and based on the changes to Section 38 and the implementation of, it's called the excessive burden test, thousands and thousands of people have been helped as a result of that policy change. So I'm quite proud of that. But every case is different, and I'm just extremely proud of all my teammates. Just to correct you at the beginning, you mentioned there were 6 lawyers. We're not all lawyers. I'm the only lawyer in my firm. There are myself and 2 immigration consultants and support staff. But everyone in my office our heart's in it, and so we try to fight the good fight on a daily basis. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. You're truly a hero to our province and to other people. So it's just amazing the work that you've done for different citizens and just like helping our world. So thank you. Okay, so our final question is for both of you. What are your thoughts on current human rights issues here in Manitoba that have been prevalent in 2020 to 2021? And what can an everyday citizen do to stand up for their rights? Jennifer, would you like to start?
Sure, absolutely. I'm happy to. I think each one of the examples of meaningful human rights issues that have been prevalent or that have been really topics of conversation the past year, each one of them is so important, and they're all interconnected, because when we stand up for human rights for one group of people or one population or one group of citizens, we're really standing up for human rights for everybody. So some of the examples referenced were, every child matters. Well, of course, that has really personal connection for me and my mother's side of the family, where we lost 3 children at residential school. So 2 of my great uncles and a great aunt who died at Brandon Residential School as children. So really understanding that every child does matter, and all of our children are sacred, and that really is a First Nations and an Indigenous way of looking at our children. They're not commodities. They're not dependents. They're sacred beings, and so protecting children, there's really nothing more important than that. Black Lives Matter is so critically important. I mean, when we look at examples of extreme racism and even micro racism that occurs in our communities. So really coming together, and I know we spoke out on social media at the time and really wanted to support our relatives in the Black community, to say, we're with you, we're standing with you, we support you. And we were really so profoundly grateful when members of the Black community came out and supported the many events that were connected with Every Child Matters. So really just looking at where there's injustice and coming together, wherever we come from and whatever our background is so important. I know one of the tools that I've used that really I think helps children, because I think if you can speak to children and help them understand their rights, I think they're in a better place growing up to identify and to be able to speak out when they see something that's wrong. And I know one of the books that we read at home and one of the books that I've read when I speak with children is a great book put out by National Geographic, Every Human Has Rights. And it's written in a way that children can understand it, and it's got some poetry and it's got beautiful pictures, and it really helps younger people in particular, but it's great for adults too, really understand human rights and understand their importance. Lastly, I guess in terms of what everyday citizens can do, I think there are opportunities that we have each and every day, or almost each and every day, when we're talking with colleagues, when we're in a group of people and somebody says something that needs to be corrected. We can always speak up in a gentle way, we can speak up in a kind way, we can speak up in a respectful way, but we absolutely need to speak up when we see people make comments about others that is not respectful of their human rights. The calls for justice of the National Inquiry, and I always have my little booklet here with me, but the calls for justice of the National Inquiry has at the very end of it calls that are specific to all Canadians and very specific to human rights. So I went through them in my recorded speech that was shared earlier today, but it really talks about standing up and about speaking up and about decolonizing. So those are some really tangible points, I think, that people can look to if they're wondering what they can do. I guess the final piece would be governments need to be held accountable. In a democracy, we elect and those individuals, whether they're at the municipal level or working at the provincial level or working at the federal level, they all have a responsibility, and it's our job as citizens to hold them accountable. And so if you have an opportunity to speak with a politician, meet with a politician, every election cycle, they're knocking on our doors, asking us for our votes. Make sure that we let them know what matters. Make sure that we reference human rights. Make sure that we reference Indigenous rights, Black rights, etc. When those folks come to the door, when we run into them and they're trying to shake hands and kiss babies, because that's so important. And it really reminds them, we are your bosses as government leaders. So we need to tell you and remind you what's important to us. So the more of us speaking about human rights, thanks to events like you have today, I think the more people will be aware and think about it. So thank you so much. I'll turn it over to Alastair now.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, I mean, I would echo everything that Jennifer just said. It was hugely informative. And just to kind of continue on with the same theme, this is kind of something that I learned when I was growing up. I don't know whether or not it's still something that young people still say, but I said it many times when I was younger, is to think globally and act locally. Here in Manitoba, I mean, when we make so many small decisions every day, and people sometimes feel that these small decisions don't matter, or they make these small decisions thinking that well, it's just one thing, it's just one small decision, it's not going to have a big impact. But it really does. I believe there's a ripple impact on all the decisions that we're making, and I really try to urge people not to be complacent with their decision making, and this is part of what I've been saying in terms of try to be educated on the impacts of our decisions, not only on a local scale but also on a global scale. You mentioned some of these, Every Child Matters, Black Lives Matters. These movements are not they don't just live in a vacuum. They live in the world that we all share. And it's so important to communicate and be honest with one another. I, here in my practice, for example, I mean, under the last, for the first National Truth and Reconciliation Day back in September, so we were offering pro bono services for any First Nations individuals who want to change their name, because maybe it sounds like a small thing, but for any survivor of residential schools or anyone who may have had their name stripped from them, they should be able to have the name, their proper name, their real name, I suppose, on their government documents, on their status cards, on their permanent resident documents, etc. That is, maybe it sounds like a small thing, but it's a very important thing in terms of maintaining one's dignity and identity. Identity is so central to fighting for human rights. So I think everybody can play a part. I think we all actually have to play a part, to be totally frank. We really need to fight complacency and fight people who just kind of shrug away the small things, because the small things really have a big impact. And I think we all need to be part of the solution. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your responses. And as Alastair is saying, we need to work together to make a change. And I completely agree with you. I think that's extremely important. And for both of you speaking today, we have learned a lot, very informative. So thank you so much. And thank you for being a part of this event.
Thank you so much for asking us.
Thank you so much.
So now we will be showcasing and premiering our 2021 Torch of Dignity video. Thank you again to the 36 organizations that have been taking a part of our Torch of Dignity event. The names of the organizations will be listed in the final credits. We hope you enjoy our video, and thank you to all of the volunteers that have made this possible.
Well, welcome everybody to the 6th annual Torch of Dignity. So we're very proud that this is our 6th year of upholding human rights within the province of Manitoba and the city of Winnipeg. So we're very proud to have the 6th annual torch and to have your participation. We have excellent speakers, and we hope you stay tuned. Thank you.
Since you left this world, nothing to say without you. And now I'm lost without you. Without you, missing you, and I know won't see you again. Just memories of you, and I know hold you. Hold you again, just one more time, missing you, missing you, missing you.
Thank you very much for joining our Torch of Dignity event.
I hope we've proved through our event that even one person can make a difference in the world.
And it was truly a blessing to work with Manitobans for Human Rights and spark a change in our community. I have learned a lot, and I hope that we can come to further ignite and support human rights and human dignity. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.